I've been married to my husband for 3 years now. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but lately, things have felt strange. Like there's a wall between us that wasn't there before. I first noticed it a few months ago. He started coming home later and later. At first, he blamed work. Said his boss was piling on extra hours and he was exhausted. I believed him. I mean, what else was I supposed to do? Then he started getting secretive with his phone. He used to leave it lying around, never cared who saw what. Now? He takes it with him everywhere, even to the bathroom. One time, I walked past him while he was texting, and he tilted the screen away so fast, you'd think I was a hacker. But the real turning point happened last Saturday. He said he was going to meet a friend from work. I asked which friend. He just shrugged and said, just a buddy. You don't know him. That already felt off. He's never been vague like that before. He left around 6 p.m. I waited. And waited. By midnight, I was pacing the living room. No call. No text. Nothing. He finally walked in the door at 5 in the morning. Not only did he look like he hadn't slept, but he smelled strongly of cologne, a type I don't use, and have never smelled on him before. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at him. He avoided my eyes, muttered something about crashing at his friend's place because they had a few drinks, and went straight to the shower. That's when I noticed it, his shirt was inside out. He never wears his clothes inside out. He's picky about stuff like that. Always has been. Something in my gut twisted. So I did something I've never done before, I checked his car. And what I found under the passenger seat made my heart stop. A small, black box. With a receipt. From a jewelry store. The date was yesterday. The time? 4:30 p.m. Before he came home smelling like someone else. I haven't asked him about it yet. I'm still trying to decide how to handle this. Is he cheating? Is he planning something? And who is this mysterious friend? All I know is something is very, very wrong. And I think I'm about to find out what. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling while my husband snored beside me like nothing happened. Like he wasn't out all night. Like I didn't find a jewelry box hidden under his seat. The next morning, he acted normal. Too normal. He made coffee, asked if I wanted pancakes, kissed my forehead. I just nodded, pretending everything was fine. But my mind was spinning. I couldn't stop thinking about that receipt. The box. The inside-out shirt. The unfamiliar cologne. And that friend he didn't want to name. Later that day, I waited until he was in the shower. I took his phone. It was locked. Of course. But I noticed something new, he had changed his wallpaper. It used to be a photo of us from our honeymoon. Now it was just black. Plain black. I knew I couldn't open the phone, but I had another idea. I opened the laptop we both share. It synced with his Google account. I clicked on his location history. And my stomach dropped. He hadn't gone to any bar or restaurant like he said. He had driven across town, to an apartment complex. He stayed there for hours. No movement. Then he left just before sunrise and came straight home. I copied the address. It looked familiar, but I couldn't place it. So I Googled it. My heart almost stopped again. The apartment belonged to Jonas. My husband's co-worker. The same one he used to talk about all the time, until a few months ago, when he suddenly stopped mentioning him. Back then, he said Jonas quit and moved away. But clearly, that wasn't true. I remembered one thing clearly now. Jonas was openly gay. I didn't know what to think. Was my husband cheating on me with him? Was that why he stopped being intimate with me? Why he's been distant? Why he lied? I felt sick. I sat there for an hour, just staring at the screen. Then I made a decision. I wasn't going to ask him anything yet. Not until I had more proof. I needed to know for sure. So I picked up my keys. And I drove to the apartment. I parked down the street, just far enough not to be noticed. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I didn't even know what I was going to say if I saw Jonas. Or if I saw them together. I just needed to see. The apartment complex was quiet. A little too quiet. I sat in the car for a while, trying to calm down. Then I got out and walked closer, pretending to scroll on my phone, like I was just passing through. Jonas's apartment was on the second floor. I remembered that from the few times I dropped my husband off at work and Jonas was with him. I looked up. The curtains were half closed, but I saw movement inside. A figure. Then another. I quickly looked away and kept walking. My heart was pounding now. 2 people were inside. I turned the corner and waited. I felt like some kind of spy. Or stalker. I hated it, but I needed to know. Then I heard the door open upstairs. I peeked out just a little. It was Jonas. He was laughing. Barefoot. In pajama pants. Then my husband stepped out behind him. Wearing the same shirt he left the house in last night. They talked for a moment. Jonas handed him something. My husband smiled. Then he leaned forward and kissed Jonas. It wasn't a quick goodbye kiss. It was slow. Familiar. Like they'd done it 100 times before. I froze. I couldn't breathe. I stepped back behind the wall, shaking so hard I thought I might fall. After a minute, I peeked again. My husband was already walking to his car. I waited until he drove off. Then, without thinking, I walked straight up the stairs. I knocked on Jonas's door. He opened it with a surprised smile that quickly disappeared when he saw me. He whispered, "OSHA *T." I said nothing. Just stared at him. Then I asked the only thing I could manage to say. "How long?" He didn't answer right away. He looked guilty. Scared. But not surprised. Finally, he said softly, "Since before you 2 got married." I felt the words hit me like a punch to the chest. Since before you 2 got married. I blinked at him, trying to process what he'd just said. I wanted to scream. Cry. Slap him across the face. But I just stood there. Jonas stepped back and said, "You should come in." I hesitated, but I did. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed to hear everything. Maybe because part of me still hoped he'd say something that would make it all make sense. His apartment smelled like coffee and laundry detergent. It looked normal. Too normal for what had just happened out there. I sat on the edge of his couch, while he leaned against the kitchen counter. "Why?" I finally asked. My voice was dry and low. "Why did he marry me if he was in love with you?" Jonas didn't answer right away. He ran a hand through his hair, then said, "Because he thought he could change. Thought it would go away." I stared at him. So I was his cure. Jonas flinched. "No. He cared about you. He still does. That's not love." "I know." Silence stretched between us. Thick and bitter. Then I asked, "Does anyone else know?" He looked at me. Then looked away. My mom suspected. She caught us once when we were teenagers. But she thought it was just a phase. Said I needed Jesus and discipline. I let out a bitter laugh. Great. So everyone's been lying to everyone. I'm not proud of any of this, Jonas said quietly. I told him not to do it. I told him not to marry you. But he said he had to. Said his family would never accept it. That he'd lose everything. So he used me to protect himself, I said. My voice was sharper now. He built a lie and made me part of it. Jonas opened his mouth like he was going to argue, but then just nodded. Yeah. I guess he did. I stood up. My legs were shaky, but I didn't care. I walked to the door. Then I turned to him. You let me marry him knowing he was in love with you. Jonas looked down. Yeah. I did. I left without saying another word. I got in my car. Drove aimlessly. I didn't want to go home. That wasn't home anymore. And I didn't want to see my husband. But I knew he'd be waiting there. Probably with some stupid excuse ready. But for the first time in our entire relationship, I wasn't scared. I was done being scared. When I finally pulled into the driveway, his car was there. Of course it was. The porch light was on, like always. I used to love that, it made the house feel warm, safe. But tonight it looked fake. Like a stage light for the performance I'd been unknowingly part of. I walked in. He was sitting at the kitchen table. Head in his hands. The moment he heard the door, he stood up fast. Babe, he started. Don't, I said, my voice low. Don't call me that. His face crumpled. I can explain. I laughed, dry and cold. No, you can't. I've already heard the explanation. From Jonas. He closed his eyes like the name physically hurt. You went to see him. I didn't have to. I followed you there. His eyes snapped open. What? I saw you, I said. You kissed him. And you didn't even look surprised when I showed up. That's how I knew this wasn't new. He looked away. Couldn't even meet my eyes. So, I continued, how long exactly? Before or after the wedding? He rubbed his face, pacing a little. Before. Way before. Since college. We were on and off, but I thought I could move on. I thought marrying you would fix it. Fix what? I snapped. You? Or the image you wanted to keep up? He winced. It wasn't about an image. Then what was it? I asked. What the hell was I to you? He looked at me, finally. His eyes glossy. You were someone I loved. Just, not the way you deserved. That broke something in me. I felt my throat tighten, but I wouldn't cry. Not in front of him. Not tonight. So you lied to me for years. You let me plan a future with you, carry your burdens, sleep next to you every night, knowing you wanted someone else. I didn't mean to hurt you, he said. But you did. I took a step back, needing distance. You hurt me every day we were together, and I didn't even know it. He reached out like he wanted to touch me, but I moved. Don't. I want to make this right, he said, desperate now. There's no right for this, I said. You married me knowing you'd never be able to give me all of you. He nodded slowly. You're right. I walked past him. Straight to our bedroom. No, my bedroom now. I grabbed the overnight bag I kept in the closet, the one I packed months ago during one of our fights, but never used. He followed me to the door. Where are you going? Somewhere real, I said. Anywhere that's not built on lies. He looked wrecked. But I didn't care anymore. I walked out. And for the first time in years, I felt something close to free. I drove with no destination. Just the road and me and the sound of the tires humming under my thoughts. I ended up at a late-night diner. One of those places where the lights are too bright and the coffee is always hot but never good. I sat in a booth near the window. Ordered black coffee and toast. It was all I could stomach. My phone buzzed non-stop. His name, over and over. I flipped the phone face down. The waitress, maybe in her 50s, gave me a soft look as she poured my refill. Long night? I nodded. Want to talk about it? No, I said. But thank you. She just gave me a kind smile and moved on. Sometimes that's all you need, someone who sees you but doesn't ask for more. It hit me then how tired I really was. Not just from tonight. From all of it. From pretending. From always carrying the weight of someone else's truth while being denied my own. I didn't sleep that night. Just stared at the booth table, thinking of all the red flags I ignored. The times he flinched at intimacy. The way his eyes lingered on Jonah's just a second too long. The awkward silences during conversations that should have been easy. He didn't love me the way I deserved. But worse. I let him pretend he did. I let myself believe the illusion. By morning, I knew I had to face the fallout. Not for him. For me. I went home, not to forgive, but to reclaim my life. He was on the couch, slumped over, still in yesterday's clothes. The moment he saw me, he stood up. You came back. Only to talk, I said. He nodded, like he knew this was his last chance. I told Jonas, he said quietly. About us. That it's over. I blinked. Why? Because I need to stop hiding. I need to start being real. I crossed my arms. It's a little late for honesty. I know, he said. But I want to be better. Even if that means losing you. I looked at him. Not with love. Not anymore. But with a strange kind of calm. Then maybe, I said, we can both start over. Separately. He didn't argue. He just nodded. And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt like I was finally being seen. I packed slowly over the next few days. Not because I was unsure, but because every item I touched had a memory attached. The coffee mug we bought on our honeymoon. The blanket we argued over every winter. The photo of us at the beach, where I now wondered if he was ever really looking at me, or just playing the part. He didn't try to stop me. He watched, quietly, respectfully. Like he finally understood this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about everything I'd lost trying to be enough for someone who couldn't even be honest with himself. You don't have to rush, he said one morning as I folded my last few shirts. I'm not rushing, I replied. I'm letting go. It wasn't dramatic. No yelling. No tears. Just a slow unraveling of something that had never really been whole. What surprised me, though, was Jonas. He showed up 2 days before I moved out. I came home from the store, arms full of cleaning supplies, and there he was, standing on the porch like a storm cloud waiting to break. I need to talk to you, he said. I didn't want to. But I nodded. He followed me inside. Sat on the edge of the couch, stiff and tense. I didn't know, he started. About you. About what you were going through. I thought. You thought I was clueless. He looked ashamed. Honestly. Yeah. Well, I said, setting the bags down. I was. Until I wasn't. I never wanted this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. You didn't hurt me, I said, voice flat. He did. Jonas looked away, eyes flickering toward the hallway. He told me he loved me. I didn't flinch. I just nodded. Good. Then maybe now he can start living his truth. Jonas stood up. Do you hate me? I paused. Looked at him, this man I'd once joked with over barbecues, who had shared meals at my table, laughed with me like a brother. I don't know what I feel, I said honestly. But hate isn't it? He looked like he wanted to say more, but instead he just nodded and walked out. And just like that, the house was quiet again. Too quiet. But sometimes silence is what you need to hear yourself again. A week later, I moved into a small apartment across town. It wasn't much, just a one-bedroom with a creaky floor and a view of the parking lot, but it was mine. For the first time in years, I could breathe without pretending. I could cry if I wanted. I could laugh without feeling watched. I could sit in silence and not be haunted by secrets. The divorce was quiet, mutual. He didn't fight me on anything. Maybe he finally understood that he'd already taken enough. I heard they eventually made it official, him and Jonas. Moved in together, even. A part of me felt something like relief. At least the lying was over. At least now, everyone was being who they really were. Sometimes people ask if I'm angry. I tell them no. Not anymore. Anger burns hot, then leaves you cold. But truth stays. It lingers. It teaches. It frees. I learned I had been loyal to an illusion. But now, I am loyal to myself. And that's a love I'll never have to question.